Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I'm a trained remote viewer. I also have been trained in interspecies communication, which is exactly what it sounds like. I can speak to other species, aliens. I was trained in that by the US government in the secret program that I was volunteered into since basically I was born. It was a continuation of Nazi experiments in Europe after the Second World War, and it was the US military that was doing it. I have to assume that the other governments also were doing the same thing, uh, trying to figure out what the Germans found that made them so powerful for a space of time. So, all of these trainings that I have had, one of which was to be a psychic spy, I use today to spy on your organs, your food, your homes, your businesses, your uh, natural resources, if you're wealthy enough to own natural resources. And I bring extra information from other dimensions, which does make it easier to make a best long-term solution. When you concentrate on the physical dimension, you can get things cleared up. But unless you take care of the other components where reality is created and where it's continuously being created, it doesn't stay done. Unless you deal with that, you could have achieved something very short term, and then all of a sudden it gets wiped out or it takes a different angle. The role of astrology in all of this is kind of interesting. As you all know, I've been seeing entirely too much astrology on television because I'm still in a place where going out freely like normal people is a bit dangerous. Lots and lots of enemies, lots and lots of supposedly, it's kind of hard to believe it's true that hits have been put out on me, people have been paid. Why didn't they accomplish the mission? I don't know. And I do know a lot of black magic has been done to take me down in terms of unaliving me. But again, you cannot die unless that's your intention. It's not my intention to leave when I am basically at the point where I start to win. So I have been winning up till now in that I do have my information getting out to a limited group of people, which for me is my win. But it really needs to be a lot more people, as I don't remember who I told years ago. I said, if I'm only going to get to 1 million people, then it wasn't worth what I went through because it was too much. So it has to be more people, and then I can say, you know what, it was worth it. But we're getting there. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about something that makes me very happy, and that this country, with its choices, is moving into spirituality. Trump has chosen two people, and if I get any of this information incorrect, I don't have any problem with people correcting me. Okay, this is on the physical dimension. I deal with too many dimensions. I can make mistakes. Not a problem for you to call me on it. So I was listening to Tulsi. I don't think what was she going to be the head of? I don't know, but it has something to do with intelligence. And she was talking about Hinduism. Now, Hinduism is supposed to be the largest religion in the world, but Hinduism is like a way of life. And as she said, you can't become a Hindu and stop being a Hindu and walk away from Hinduism. You just, you're doing it or you're not doing it. You're living according to some beliefs that are based on what's going on in the other dimensions. And if you want any really baseline information on our energy centers, which are called chakras, Hinduism can give you that information. And they integrate the information of the other bodies into their daily routines, into their teachings. And Tulsi apparently is Hindu, or at least she was explaining Hindu on TV a few minutes ago. Vance, apparently there was a family gathering for Thanksgiving, and half the people in his family look like they still have one foot in India, which is again Hinduism. So I think that this is a sign that we are choosing, our choices are, in my opinion, becoming more wise because we're choosing people who come from backgrounds where they were trained because of belief systems in other dimensions. And I'm sure they don't use the words other dimensions. They do use the word chakras. And so, and I'm going to give you an example in terms of my life, how dealing with somebody uh, with a Hindu background changed the way I was looking at things, and is a very big part of how I teach today, having to do with health. Decades ago, there was I went to a party, and I had already psychically, I had told my daughter that psychically I had picked up that I should live with a man. My housekeeper had just left, and she was like my babysitter, my nanny, my bodyguard. She had been with us for many years and helped raise the kids, and she had to leave because she was sick. So I said, you know what? I think I want a man to move in, but not as a mate, and I don't want him to be gay. And my daughter was like, "What?" I said, "You know what? Forget it. Forget that I ever said that." But 2 days later, I went to a party, and the person who was giving the party was a little bit off base, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, I have a lot of company that has arrived, and it turns out that two people from out of the country arrived at the same time. I have one guest bedroom, and it's a male and a female, and I can't put them both up." And I said, "Okay, who are the two people?" One was I think the ex-sister-in-law, and the other one was um, an Ayurvedic doctor. And I said, "I'll take the Ayurvedic doctor." And he said, "What?" I said, "I have an extra room. I'll take him. He can stay with me." He was coming to validate some kind of certification so that he would be able to help people. So he moved in, and he was an Ayurvedic doctor, and he was a Brahma, which means he was from the highest caste in India, which basically means he didn't do dishes or pick up his room or pay attention to my needs. It was an interesting experience, but I learned a lot. When he was there, I did a mini remote viewing study of 33 females because I was interested in the whole issue of menopause, which in those years, 30 years ago, was a big national conversation. And I had come from a party a couple of weeks before that at the end of the evening, the group had divided into two. On one side of this big room, the males were talking, and on the other side, the females were talking, and the females were all talking about menopause. And I guess it was because we were that age. And I thought, this is interesting. Let me study this and see what it really means. So when I was doing this, he lived with me, and I told him the results of my studies, which was that menopause symptoms are really not symptoms of menopause. He told me, actually. Um, He said, what you're studying is not menopause. Those are not symptoms of menopause. Those are symptoms of a person whose menopause is not going well. That is not what menopause is supposed to be like. That's a distortion. And we were talking about the hot flashes and the change of moods. And of course, in this country, that's menopause. Hot flashes, change of mood, everything dries up, da, 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 da. And he said, that's not menopause. Menopause is a transition with the body that's no longer getting ready to have children. And that when people have those symptoms, they're having a problem with their menopause. But that's not menopause. Okay. So he said to me, now let me tell you a little story. And this is the thing that changed my life in terms of my work. He said, in India, the only women that get those symptoms of menopause gone bad are the women that used to live in the countryside, and then they come to the city. So it's the city dwelling women that get those symptoms, the hot flashes. He said they want to come to the city and they want to be just like men. They want to earn the money, and then they get menopause symptoms. And of course, that really irritated me. But I thought about it, and it has to do with the whole acceptance thing. In the countryside, the women would accept their place in life, what their society had considered was their place in life. This is not a good and bad issue. We're talking about health and symptoms of health. So in the countryside, the women would accept, which is what he said. The women accept their position in life. When they come to the city, they don't accept their position. They're very unhappy about it. And then those are the ones, that's the group that get the menopause symptoms, the hot flashes, etc. I did not like what he said, but I listened to him and I understood that he was correct. Menopause Symptoms. No, symptoms of menopause gone wrong are hot flashes. Hot flashes are from an imbalance in the handling of heat in the body, especially the liver. Heat is irritation, anger, frustration, hatred. And when I did the sketches, the remote viewing sketches of 33 women, they were frustrated. They were angry. They were angry at their positions at work, or angry at their mate that didn't help with the housework, whatever. And also their kidneys were involved, from being very frustrated in their position. We're talking about American women here in the United States, Miami, Florida. And basically, my study showed that he was right, that the symptoms of menopause was not because of what happened to these women, most of which were kind of well to do. They were kind of in my social circle, whatever, but they weren't happy with their position. They had never lived in the countryside, but they lived in cities, and probably most of them always lived in cities, but they weren't happy with their position. Most of them thought that if they were male, they would have done better. Or if they didn't think it, that was hiding within their mind and their system. So that was a very big opening in terms of me and my ability to see beyond, see disease as a symptom of just something the matter with your body. And it also took me out of the whole judgment thing. So if you have symptoms of menopause, the judgment issue gets triggered. It doesn't matter who you are. If you have the hot flashes, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have the hot flashes, it's your liver that's compromised, and it's because you're angry. And if you weren't angry, you wouldn't have a compromised liver, which your doctor will probably not be able to diagnose, but you would still be getting the hot flashes and the change of mood and the rest of that. If you were content and accepting of your position now in life, and also from before, because it's always cumulative, you wouldn't have a compromised liver, and you wouldn't have hot flashes. So the trick is not to say, in this particular case, the study of the women, and they're not them having symptoms of menopause because they weren't satisfied with their position in society, etc. In this country, we're not talking India. If you can simply accept your position, which is not really true, if you can accept your reaction to your position and you do the appropriate mantra, you're not going to get the symptoms. In other words, you're in this country, and let's say you're a lawyer. I was supposed to study law and I quit. I took it off. I've ended my wanting that as a goal when I realized how difficult that was going to be because of the whole, this was 30, 40 years ago, the male-female thing. And I didn't want to have to continue that battle. And that's a choice that we make. I didn't want that continuous frustration. But let's say I had chosen to to study law. I would have had to, in order not to have a bad menopause, I would have had to every step of the way deprogrammed my reaction to the fact that I was a female and it was going to be harder for me in a field so dominated by men. So it's not the situation that happens, it's your reaction. It's not the women in India leaving the countryside and going to the city and earning less money than the men, or getting manhandled because they're female in a workforce of men. It's the person's reaction to that. It's not the abuse, it's your reaction to the abuse. And if we can get that figured out and just simply deal with the reaction to whatever it is, we don't have to get sick. Our organs don't get sick. In this particular case, you don't have to deal with the issues of menopause. So going back to the doctor that lived with me, Dr. Akhilesh Sharma, who's a friend of Modi's and who was I don't know if he still is, president of the International Yoga Day for the UN. Very bright man. We did not necessarily get along well, but I learned a lot. And we didn't get along well because there's huge cultural differences. When you're a Brahmin, basically you're kind of like a god in India. So if we were in India, if you're a Brahmin, male, Ayurvedic doctor, then you're obviously up here, and everybody around you, including this person you're living with for free, is down here. And of course, that didn't work for me, but that was my reaction. And yet, it took me probably 2 or 3 years to understand that I needed to be very grateful to him for what it was that he taught me. And not just about medicine, but in terms of relating to men. It was a very, very good experience. And if you ever have the opportunity, he's an incredible doctor to work with. So we're getting this wisdom in this country via choices that are being made for people that are going to be running huge departments. And even though perhaps these two people, the two that I mentioned, which would have been Tulsi and Vance, perhaps they don't even know what a chakra is, but their family understands the energetics, which puts us closer to being able to understand our individual energy system and making more decisions based on protecting our energy bodies, not just the physical body. Because the physical body is actually a symptom of everything else that's going on with all the other bodies. I'm very quickly going to put up the graphic of the bodies so that you can see them. And there's no question of the existence of these bodies. They're referred to throughout history, including in the Lord's Prayer, the original one in Aramaic. I think I'll talk about that on Monday. So we are making choices at a national level that are taking us into the other dimensions. These people are anchoring information. It's not Hinduism, I think it's classified as a religion, but honestly, it's really kind of, from what I can see, is not a religion. It's practices based on good routines that kind of take care of your energy bodies, which is where all of your power is. So we're going to do something today. We're going to go ahead and deal with the most negative emotion that humans have, which is shame. This whole thing with the sex trafficking thing. If I had not spent a ton of time on shame mantras, I would never have been able to do this podcast. I wouldn't be able to share with you a lot of the stuff that I share with you because honestly, it's really shameful. So I would either disassociate and just be robotic talking about it, or I had to deal with the shame. And I understood that the shame would be what would be used to take me down, and that I would take myself out of the picture just simply because I didn't want something about myself exposed. But we all have shame. It's the lowest vibration of all the emotions. And the whole thing with the fact that the intelligence community and dark spirits understand that humans cannot tolerate shame. They can't deal with it. It's too painful. Means that they use that to take down people. This whole thing with the honeypot operations and the exposing people's sexual inclinations when they haven't really told everybody, all of that is based on knowing that people just can't tolerate the shame. And if they can simply say, you know what? Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, that's found out about me. Okay. If you simply do that, you may have to negotiate with your family, depending upon what the themes are. But if you simply do that, the people can't do anything further. Unless, of course, the whole issue of finger pointing. You're not supposed to do that. Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I won't do that again. But no, we already did it. That's the crime, or what's the punishment? I'll go through it and let's continue forward. Nobody continues forward. It stops right there because of everybody's shame. And that's got to change. So what are we going to do today? We're going to do the shame mantra. But I really want for you to self-assess yourself from 1 to 10 right now. And then at the end, and I may not remember to remind you, How do you feel emotionally today, right now, 1 to 10? 1 is god awful and 10 is great. Then at the end, I want you to try it again. And while you're doing the mantra, I want for you to pay attention to all the different things that start to happen in your body, which means that in those places where you're feeling things, you have congestions of shame. In those areas, you have zombied that area. Your consciousness have left because of shame. And that trauma, whatever shameful trauma, and we all have many, is in that area, your knee, your shoulder, above your lips, which is where a lot of us hold our shame. Not for nothing, I guess, that I have all those wrinkles in the top part of my lip, the chin. But for all of you, it may be different. So pay attention to that. So I'm going to, okay, let me do the mantra first so that you could start on it. Now, I was talking about the title of this chat is The Balance of the Elements in the United States. That is something that Ayurveda, which is the medicine from India, that is what they take care of. Chinese medicine, that is what they take care of. Hinduism, that is what they take care of. So to have a country now start to incorporate people that actually have lived that or that's part of their background is a very, very good thing, because it doesn't make sense that the most important country in the world is the only country with a medicine that is not based on what is health on the planet, which is a balance of the 4 elements. United States, but that's basically the case with practically all the countries, we have an excess of the fire element, which is the gasoline for insomnia, anxiety, anger, frustration, hatred, emotional violence, physical violence, murder, and suicide. All of those are a symptom of excess fire. We are a country of excess fire. And we have been working a lot on cooling down the country in the other dimensions, and it seems to be working. So, but right now, let's clear a little bit. I just want you to have the experience of what it's like to do a mantra having to do with shame, and then to simply go, oh my God, I didn't realize that was bothering me so much, because that is the emotion and the frequency we bury the deepest. So this is the mantra. The mantra is, even though I want to die of shame, I love and accept myself. You repeat it in silence. You expel the breath through your mouth, and let me choose the mantra music. Okay, the mantra music. With the solar plexus, which is where personal power is, shame. How do you feel from 1 to 10 compared to before we started? You can tell from my voice that I'm a lot less frazzled. Now, this mantra music, we ordered it to be composed by somebody we respect incredibly as a composer, Mateo Cuaron. And the instructions and what he gave us was a composition of music, which we later on put onto the video, with the music, the frequencies, and the images on the video all have to do with balancing the elements, which is something that Hinduism deals with, Buddhism, shamanism, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and which we have not in this country. It has to do with health. Health is a balance of the four elements. And if you're unbalanced and you're sick, and a country can be sick with an imbalance, which the United States is, but I suspect most countries in the world are also sick due to that imbalance. So having more people who come from a background where they understand the elements to the point where they don't really talk about them, they just incorporate it in terms of their foods and the rest of that. Like just a simple example. If you're hysterical, out of control, um, having a hard time getting a grip on things, you have too much air element. You need more earth element. Earth stabilizes too much of it, and basically you become a bump on a log. But if you're in a really crazed place, then eating potatoes, stuff that's grown beneath the ground, will help to stabilize you because you're adding the element of earth. And your problem is that you're into too much air. You're not grounded. And remember, the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, it doesn't say deliver us from evil. It says help us to be in the present, which means grounded and landed. So I'm going to continue to discuss the elements so that we too, in this country, which is the most important country in the world at this point in written human history, that we can have the wisdom of the ages incorporated in our medicine, our food, our government. And it's not a religion, it's a law, it's laws of this planet, which don't apply to other planets. And the most interesting thing to remember about the balance of the elements having to do with aliens is they can't tolerate the earth element. They don't function well on the physical dimension, or they don't function all over the place. So understanding that, what does that mean? I don't know. But you know what I was thinking about this morning? When you leave this planet, I just bought Elon Musk's smaller mini Starlink apparatus to where you don't have to put it on the top of your house. You can just travel with it in your car and get your Wi-Fi from all of the incredible satellites. But darn, I took a detour and now I forgot what I was going to say. Yes, because I purchased that last night, they have them on sale, which is good. You save $100. I was thinking about his spaceships, and I was thinking, wonder what, I wonder if we should be looking into, because you're taking a spaceship that's built on this planet where the four elements is everything, and then you got to get it off the planet, which means you got to kind of leave behind the earth element so it can move up. And then you run into too much fire, which is, I think, been the big issues. But the earth puts out fire, but you can't use the earth because then it'll fall back down again. But maybe somebody needs to go into all of that and find out what can be done having to do with the balance of the elements to make it easier for these spaceships to get up there and get all the way over to Mars, which is what Elon Musk wants, which I don't understand. I don't want to go to Mars. And yet I totally respect him. And if he's feeling that, I suspect it's coming from a place of intuition. And eventually I'll figure out why it is that that's going to work for all of us. I'm a Cancer. I want to stay home. Literally at my apartment. I want to stay home. So going to Mars is like, why would I do that? I already did a lot of that stuff when I was young. Anyway, it was good being here with you. And we'll see you again. Thank you for joining me. I'm Frances Fox, and this is the podcast, Frances Fox News from Other Dimensions.